From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
You want to go where to buy a new refrigerator? Steve's A to Z Appliance in Cottonwood? In Cottonwood? Just a 10-minute drive. And they'll save us money. New and used, honest, reliable, factory-trained repair service and parts, and they'll save us money. And dispose of this thing? We gotta make the short drive to Steve's A to Z. Thanks, son.
Steve's A to Z Appliance, front and main streets in Cottonwood. Drive a little, save a lot.
Well, happy Monday morning to you. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger. Thank you so much for joining us here on Weather NorCal. We're going to start off with our weather headlines. We've got the wet weather pattern that'll continue all this week. So we've got more wet weather than the forecast, although the atmospheric rivers, the pineapple expresses, whatever you want to call it, that's going to be shifting to our south, and we're not going to be influenced by that as much through most of this week after the next couple of days. Gusty winds, and we'll talk about a wind advisory out there. Cooler air moving in, which will lower those snow levels, but I do expect a break from this wet weather pattern by this upcoming weekend. Here's a look at Krueger's Quickcast for a quick look at your forecast for today. As you're heading out the door this morning, be prepared for some more wet weather pretty much anywhere you go. Although I will say this, it's going to move to the south and east, so parts of the eastern mountains are going to be dry this morning. Parts of the valley too, especially to the south around Chico. It looks like eventually that'll be shifting to the south-southeast throughout the day today. So you can see a couple of things pointing out here. This is the next disturbance, or should I say storm system, pushing through the subtropical moisture, so plenty of moisture to work with. It's still bringing us heavy rainfall in many cases here. This is colder air. This is going to be impacting our weather later this week in the form of lower snow levels. And, you know, maybe even a few isolated thunderstorms in some spots too. Let's talk about the wind advisory here until 4 p.m. Tuesday. But I'll be honest with you, I think that this will be allowed to expire probably before then. And I'll show you why. Here you can see through the day today, those winds pretty gusty in the valley, right? We're talking over 30 miles per hour, very gusty off to the east, even out towards Mount Shasta, but those winds not quite as strong out along the coast. Now that continues this afternoon. But look at tomorrow morning. As we go into 8 to 10 a.m., the winds are subsiding and will continue to subside through the day on Tuesday, but still pretty gusty off to the east. That's why I think that wind advisory should be allowed to expire sooner. There are flood watches, there are flood warnings, there are flood advisories. We're going to go into that a lot more detail and what some of those river forecast levels are looking like as well. But just be prepared for that. Flooding is already occurring in many locations. We've seen it. And we'll probably see more areas emerge as we see more and more of this rain come in. And by the way, mudslides and debris flows are still going to be a concern here over the next couple of days. So you can see again, this is all shifting to the south and east. So yeah, Chico, you're not seeing the rain right now, or Corning, but or at least this morning, and then by midday that rain begins to move in. Still, the heavier band of rain is off to the north and west. The coldest air is up to the north, so places like northern Siskiyou County and even into northern Del Norte County, that's where we have those lower snow levels, but on average between 4,500 5,500 feet. You can see again, it kind of shifts down to the south and east. We're seeing some rain, pockets of heavy rainfall at times, still 4,500 to 5,500 foot snow levels. Now you can see for Tuesday, let's take into Tuesday morning, now the snow levels are beginning to drop as that colder air begins to cool down from the north, but you see we're getting a bit of a break off to the north and west. So we'll get a closer look at that and longer range as we go into Wednesday as well. But I mean, look at this. The National Weather Service has all kinds of winter storm watches, advisories, warnings, the works. And most of these are going to be through Wednesday, if not even in some cases Thursday. But take a look at the chain requirements this morning. Again, this is where we're seeing the colder air. That's why we're seeing those chain requirements on Highway 97. You can see on Highway 3 as well. And then, of course, this is looking at I-5, is looking up to the north. Then on Highway 299, Highway 139, you can see Cedar passing some chain requirements. But to the south of that, we're not seeing any until you get closer to the Tahoe region. So again, those higher snow levels not creating many problems here, at least for most of us. It's the north that we're seeing the most of it. But there you can see, taking a look at that ski report, looks pretty good. We take a look at what it's going to be out at the ski park here as far as projected snow. And that's also looking good, especially once those snow levels do start to drop, especially starting tomorrow and then going into Wednesday and Thursday and even Friday, seeing some of that snow too. So here's your Monday forecast. Overcast skies for most of us. Everyone's going to see precipitation in some shape or form here for today. Taking a look at your 7-day outlook for the valley, you can see the off and on rain here through Friday. This unsettled weather pattern is going to stick around through Friday, but at this point, it does look like it should start to dry out for your weekend. Taking a look at the coast, inland, and for Weaverville. Weaverville, you may see some snowflakes, maybe even as early as Tuesday night, but maybe even a light dusting of snow on Wednesday, and then Thursday, 2,000 feet, you can see a bit of a mix, and then maybe some more rain coming in on Friday before it dries out over the weekend. Mount Shasta, after today, you're going to be dealing with snow off and on for Tuesday through Friday. Same situation for Alturas and even Susanville, seeing those lowering snow levels with those drier conditions over the weekend. That is Krueger's Quickcast, or at least as quick as I could get it. Hope you have a great day, but be sure to stick around because we've got a lot more to talk about in our deeper dive forecast. And for those of you that are new to Weather NorCal, number one, welcome. So glad you found this channel. So glad you found what I'm doing here. Been doing it for over 1.5 years now. Can you believe it? And I've got a free Weather NorCal app out there. There's a lot of great resources that you're going to discover that I've developed here with Weather NorCal. And one of those, of course, you got to have an app, right? I think you're going to like it. Just go to your app store, search for Weather NorCal, and download the app for free today. It's got a lot of great resources. Check it out. Play around with it. Just check it out. You'll see all the great different resources. I just had someone text me yesterday, a friend of mine, who was playing around with the app a little bit more, and they just said, wow, your app is really awesome. I really noticed a lot, discovered new things with your app, and it's fantastic. So yeah, including road conditions, by the way. All right, so the winds. Let's start with the wind advisory. Remember, I was saying it expires tomorrow at 4 p.m. But again, take a look at the winds here. I'm going to take you through the day. This is noon. See how gusty they are for the valley, eastward, but even parts of Trinity County, western Siskiyou County, even Humboldt County seeing some gusty winds. Now they do subside to the north and west as the main boundary is pushing to the south and east, but still very gusty for the valley, very gusty off to the east. By tomorrow morning, still breezy, borderline windy, especially for the south end of the valley eastward. But see, again, we're seeing those winds die down for pretty much everyone else. By midday Tuesday, still a bit breezy in the valley, but you see how the winds are subsiding, but still gusty to the east of that. And then still a little breezy here, but more of that north wind, once again, not as strong. So again, I do think that the wind advisory we do have for the valley will most likely be allowed to expire by the time we do get into Tuesday, at least around midday. Now the winds do pick up a little bit on Wednesday coming in from the south, but no major wind event, just breezy, borderline windy. Again, there's a look at the winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories for pretty much all of the mountain locations surrounding the valley. At this point, no, I don't anticipate any snow in the valley. I'm taking these numbers directly off of the forecast model. These numbers are going to be changing over the next 24 to 48 hours because, again, it's all going to depend on what that colder air decides to do and how much of that moisture decides to tap into. So quite honestly, I'm not happy with a lot of these numbers, but just to kind of give you an idea where we're expecting snow. And pretty much everyone, say above, eventually, everyone above, say, 1,500 feet or so, I think is going to see snow. The higher you go in elevation, most likely, obviously, you'll be dealing with heavier snow. Now, we saw this a little bit earlier. We're seeing that colder air, which, much like yesterday, is in northern Siskiyou County, northern Modoc, and even northern Del Norte County as well. So that's where we're seeing the chain requirements here this morning. I don't anticipate it to get any worse here. Now, you can see here, at least for today, you can see here at 5 p.m., you're starting to see a little bit of that ice or mix here for some of those higher elevations, but Cedar Pass, yeah, still looking at that those chain requirements. Now, as we go into tomorrow morning, you see the snow beginning to fill in. I think it's going to be a little bit later in the day here for places like I-5 near Mount Shasta City, for example. So here's what I want you to do. Remember I was talking about in the app, this is a great resource in the app as well, but also on weathernorcal.com. And if you go to weathernorcal.com on your phone, I want you to go to right here, click road conditions. What I've done with it, and it's really great, Caltrans has a lot of great resources. And you know, you go to Quick Map, there's a really quick, easy link to Quick Map there. That shows you the latest chain requirements. And they've got all the cameras, but you got to click on every single camera to figure out what it looks like. So at a quick glance, you're just scrolling through the page. You can see highway by highway, some of the more popular cameras, some of the more popular mountain passes, and you can at a very quick glance take a look at what it looks like when it comes to the road conditions. So check it out, weathernorcal.com, click on the road conditions section. So again, we've got this storm system moving in. This is the colder air that is going to be sweeping southward here over the next 24 to 48 hours. As it does that, our snow levels are going to drop. And of course, we'll see our temperatures drop as well, right? But there is that subtropical moisture aimed right at Northern California. A pretty strong tilt here. That's why we're not seeing as much activity this morning for places like Chico. But again, you can see how that's shifting to the south and east here for today, tonight, and even tomorrow. There's that colder air pushing to the south. Now, what you'll notice here for Wednesday, we're not really seeing a lot of moisture for this storm system to tap into. There will be some showers along the coast, some snow flurries for some of the higher elevations, but you'll notice not a lot of rain at this point. But look at right here. We've got a disturbance and a nice batch of moisture that this colder air is going to tap into. See how it gets caught up in that flow, and then look what happens. You see how we're seeing the rain and even snow really begin to fill up over Northern California. So this is when I expect some of those lower snow levels down to around 2,000 feet, give or take. And then eventually that low pressure system shifts off to the east, so some leftover activity on Friday before we dry things out over the weekend. And that may linger into your Monday. This storm system looks like it's going to weaken before it gets here. Shouldn't have much of an impact. But you know, we're going to get a well-deserved break from this wet weather, it looks like, by the weekend. All right, let's take a look at the next couple of days here in detail here with Futurecast. So again, remember I was saying the coldest air is up to the north, so that's where we're seeing most of the snow. And again, this morning, places like Corning, Chico, Willows, Orville, not seeing much in the way of rain or even rain or snow off to the eastern mountains. But this will just slowly shift to the south and east, even by around midday. Heaviest snow, once again, is up to the north. We're seeing some of the higher elevations to the east, above 6,000 feet. But once again, we've still got snow levels about 4,500 to 5,500 feet. Once again, much like yesterday, I think the Mount Shasta Ski Park is going to be borderline rain or snow. It was mainly rain, especially for the first half of the day. It kind of got a little bit more sleety, if you will, more like sleet, kind of the pellets later in the day. And that could be the case. I think it's going to be much like it was yesterday here for today out at the Mount Shasta Ski Park. There you can see today at 5 o'clock, you can see this boundary right here. That's going to be some strong winds, by the way. Heavier rainfall, snow above 5,000 feet here. 4,500 to 5,500 feet up to the north. All right, now let's take you into Tuesday morning. I've got snow levels dropping down to as low as 2,000 feet, but between 2,000 and 3,000 feet. And you can see here, things are drying out a little bit here off to the north and west. It's going to try to fill in here for midday Tuesday, but that starts to shift to the east. This is the first signs of these atmospheric rivers beginning to, or the atmospheric rivers we've been dealing with here, finally starting to kind of move on out. So as we go into Tuesday, around Tuesday night into Wednesday, you see how that we're no longer looking at that steady flow of moisture. That's gone at this point. Then by Wednesday morning, that colder air is moving in, but it doesn't have a lot of moisture to work with. So you see how we're just seeing some light snow flurries, a few showers, maybe even an isolated thunderstorm along the coast. But most of the precipitation on Wednesday, especially for the first half of the day, will be to the north and west. Could see a stray shower develop in the valley. Could see some snow flurries developing here for some of the higher elevations. And maybe a thunderstorm or two off the coast here. But fairly dry off to the east, even for Wednesday morning. But remember, I was showing you that big stream of moisture coming in on Thursday. That's going to fill this all up. So by tomorrow, we'll be looking at this shorter range Futurecast, and we'll probably see a lot more snow and rain on this map. Now, speaking of rain, we do have that flood risk for today. Areas in green and yellow. Yellow, of course, being the higher risk for that potential. So let's take a look at, I'm going to be showing you the the flood watches and warnings. What's the difference between a watch or a warning? Well, if there's a flash flood watch or even a flood watch, that means conditions are favorable for flooding. So be prepared, be ready, keep watching the forecast. If you live in a low-lying area or by a creek, stream, or river, keep a close eye on it. However, If there is a flash flood or a flood warning, that means flood is imminent, it's about to happen, or it's happening as we speak, and you need to take action immediately. So that's the difference between the two. And remember that when you're on social media. I saw it over the weekend. Someone locally in the Reading area had posted on Facebook they had posted flood warning. There were no flood warnings at the time of that post. And then, of course, below it, they talked about the flooding potential and all that. But it was incorrect information, and that frustrates me more than anything. You've got to know your sources and how accurate they are. All right, so let's talk about flood safety here real quickly, because if you can't see the road through the water, don't even attempt to drive through it, because all it takes is 12 inches of water to move a car and even an SUV to be swept away. You're in a big SUV, you're like, yeah, I can do this. It doesn't. It only takes 12 inches of that water, right? And then a large vehicle, 18 inches. So it doesn't take much for you to get into a dangerous situation, and you've really got to be careful. So turn around, don't drown, as they say, right? So we have a flood watch here, a flood watch for all of these areas in green here, as really we've been dealing with here since last week. Now, where we have a flood warning, and it says it expires at 3:22 yesterday morning, basically what this is meaning is that it's reached the flood stage. It's over the flood stage and is expected to be that way for a while. And this is really until further notice, is what the National Weather Service is saying at this point. So we take a look at the Sacramento River Tehama Bridge. You see where it is right now? It's in the minor flood stage, and is expected to hover there at least through Wednesday morning, and then should start to drop and then maybe increase again, especially when we see that next round of rain coming in Thursday. As you can see here, it may get back up to that moderate stage. We'll have to see. These change rapidly. We have out towards Siskiyou County a flood warning, so this area right here until 10 p.m. We have for out towards Modoc County, you can see here this flood warning here until 4 p.m. Friday. Let's take a look at Pitt River near Canby. It's expected here shortly to get into the moderate to even major flood stage, and it will just kind of stay there even as we get to the end of the week. So this is going to be a bit of a concern. If you're in this area, know that Pitt River near Canby, it's going to be a problem. All right, you can see here northwestern Lassen County, there's a flood warning for that expires at Thursday at noon. Now, you can see here, this is a flood advisory, so it's not happening, at least for the whole area, but it's something you need to be aware of here, and that's through Tuesday afternoon. Taking a look at the Susan River at Susanville, the good news is it's already been flooding here, but it's expected to recede here as we go through the rest of the week. So some great news there. So you can see some of the current levels right now. You're in action, which means it's approaching the minor flood stage, but not there just yet. That's the yellow. Green, of course, you're good. But the oranges, right, that's minor flood stage. So we're seeing that along the Sacramento River. We're back down to action for Susan River, and not at the flood stage yet at Pitt River, but that's going to be changing here in the next 12 to 24 hours. And I also want to show you Eel River at Fern Bridge. It is expected to crest at about 20.8 feet, which is, of course, below the moderate, but in the minor flood stage. Then as we go through the day on Tuesday and Wednesday, it will start to recede. So again, you know where the flood-prone areas are, especially if you've lived in the area for a while. Low-lying areas have been seeing a lot of flooding. I know Reading, a lot of areas have been seeing some street flooding as well, so that's going to continue to be an issue over the next couple of days, because here you can see through Wednesday, we could see 2.5 to even upwards of close to 4 inches of rain for some of us in the valley, a little bit less than that for the central parts of the valley like Red Bluff and Willows, not as much to the east here. And by the way, you'll notice we're not seeing as much rain for the coast because we're just not expected to. It's where that atmospheric river is pointed will depend on just how much rain you get. Now, what's interesting, if we look at the long range, we go beyond this storm system that's going to be through this week, we're actually getting closer to near normal rain conditions. So flooding should become less of a concern as we get toward the end of this week, and in particular this weekend. Fingers crossed, right? I mean, the rain is nice, it's been great, but for those of you that are dealing with the flooding, It's not fun, is it? That's why we don't want it all at once. Taking a look at the lake levels, here's something that's good that's coming out of all of this. Last 24 hours, Lake Shasta has risen 3.14 feet, almost a foot for Trinity Lake. And look at that for Lake Oroville, almost 6.5 feet in the last 24 hours. That's great. The lakes are getting even, they were already healthy, but they're getting even healthier. Can you believe it? All right, take a look at the wave heights. You can see they're not going to be too bad out there. In fact, it looks like as we go through Tuesday, those wave heights should begin to drop. So we look at your marine forecast, a little breezy. Wind should subside here, though, even for the marine forecast here later this afternoon. And, of course, there will be those rain showers throughout the day today. All right, here's your Trinity County neighborhood forecast. Temperatures in the upper 40s, even around 50 for some of the warmer spots here. As we look at the 7-day forecast, everyone has a chance for rain off and on all the way through Friday. All right, let's take you up to the north here. There's a look at Del Norte, northern Humboldt. Again, off and on rain here through Friday, but we do dry things out by the time we do get into the weekend. All right, let's take you out to Siskiyou County, and of course, there's your neighborhood forecast there. Snow levels are starting to drop a little bit here. Notice about 2,000 feet Wednesday, as well as Thursday, and then they start to climb again. So, Mount Shasta, once we get past today, you're going to be dealing with snow each and every single day, off and on. It's not going to be snow coming down for 4 days straight, but off and on through 4 days. There you can see Modoc County, same situation. El Turris, you'll be wet in the form of rain today, but then you're dealing with off and on snow for Tuesday through Friday, drying out by the weekend. Here's a look at your Eastern Mountains neighborhood forecast. Susanville, wet in the form of rain. Also seeing the snow levels dropping as we go into Tuesday, and in particular for Wednesday and Thursday. Here's your Valley neighborhood forecast brought to you by Walgamith Painting. Your temperatures are in the upper 50s. There's the off and on rain, maybe even some breaks in the clouds here. More showers coming in on Thursday and Friday, and then dry for the weekend. Here's a look at your 7-day outlook for Chico. Off and on rain here through Friday. Temperatures low to mid 50s for really the next 7 days. Look at the overnight lows by Friday night into Saturday and Saturday night into Sunday. Low 30s. It's getting a lot colder as that colder air really begins to kind of cool down. All right, let's take a look at the valley to the north, also brought to you by Walgamith Painting. Temperatures in the upper 50s, 57 degrees for Redding, 57 degrees for Red Bluff. Let's take a look at that 7-day outlook for Redding. Temperatures actually dropping down to the upper 40s by Thursday, once again as that colder air moves in. Low to mid 50s for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and dropping down to the upper 20s by Friday night and Saturday night. That's your morning update. I'll be back again at noon. Have a great morning.
Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too. Because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.